This week, the Supreme Court struck down efforts in Wisconsin to allow absentee ballots that arrive after Election Day to be counted. So for the latest on the vote from that critical battleground state, let's bring in Meagan Wolfe from the Wisconsin Elections Commission. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
So I spoke yesterday with Michigan's Secretary of State, and her advice to voters at this point was to turn in ballots in person, saying, quote, don't rely on the mail. So after that Supreme Court decision, what's your recommendation to voters to make sure that their ballots arrive in time? And where does the count stand right now as far as how many absentee ballots still need to be returned in your state?
Yeah, so I would agree. Absentee ballots need to be back in the state of Wisconsin by 8 p.m. on Election Day. And the USPS advises that mail can take up to a week to be returned. And so now that we're at this critical juncture before the election, returning your absentee ballot either in person to your local election official or in a drop box in your community is really the best option as well. So we issued close to 1.5 million absentee ballots in the state of Wisconsin, and there are still quite a few that are out that need to be returned. So our advice to those voters has been to get those ballots back as soon as possible.
Now, 23,000 ballots were rejected in Wisconsin's April primary, which is more votes than decided the 2016 election in your state. With more Wisconsin voters voting by mail for the first time this year, is there a concern at all that more ballots will be potentially rejected? And what's being done to let voters correct any issues?
So we've been doing a lot to educate voters about the requirements to make sure that their absentee ballot is counted. So that includes getting it back in time. In Wisconsin, that's 8 p.m. on Election Day. And also in Wisconsin, we required that the voter sign the certificate for their absentee ballot and that they have their witness sign their certificates and provide their address on that as well. And so we've also built in some tools in our technology to alert a voter if there is a problem detected before Election Day and to contact their local election official to get that remedied so that their ballot will indeed be counted. So it's been a combination of voter education and alerting voters if there's a problem.
And earlier this month, you raised the need for more poll workers for Election Day, but Wisconsin is currently seeing one of the highest rates per capita of COVID infections, as well as rising hospitalizations and deaths. And your governor has asked residents to voluntarily stay at home as much as possible. So do you have the people and resources to run polling sites safely? And what's your advice to voters who will wait until Election Day to vote at the polls in person?
We have a higher percentage of absentee ballots than we've ever seen in a general election. So many of our voters have chosen that option to participate using absentee by mail. We're also seeing voters continue to use the in-person absentee process available in our state right now. But we expect that there'll be about 40% of our expected turnout that come to the polls on Election Day. And so we are very proud to report that Wisconsinites really have stepped up to become poll workers. And we've encouraged our local election officials not just to have enough poll workers, but to plan for contingency. In the event that someone's not able to serve because of an illness or other unexpected reason. And so it really has been a whole state approach to make sure that we have enough poll workers to process that volume. And we've also done things like getting out supplies and education to voters about what to expect at the polls on Election Day and to ensure that that's a safe experience for anyone that chooses that option.
Of course, clerks in your state can't begin to open ballots until the day of the election. So do you think that they're prepared to handle that huge influx? And also, when do you anticipate having a final result for Wisconsin?
Yeah, thanks for that question. That's also been a big part of our voter education efforts. Like you said, absentee ballots in our state cannot be processed until the polls open on Election Day. Absentee ballots are processed as part of that public process at the polls on Election Day. It's publicly observable, and so they can't be opened and processed until 7 a.m. when our polls open. Those ballots have to continue to be counted until every lawfully returned ballot has been counted. And so our poll workers will continue diligently to process those absentee ballots until every one has indeed been counted. Certification, I like to remind voters and everyone that certification always takes a number of weeks to complete. On election night, those are never official certified results. Election results actually have to be certified at the municipal level then again at the county level, and then finally at the state level, which by our state law is December 1st, is when we certify the results of an election. Anything you hear prior to that is unofficial results.
But how does the counting work? Will you count throughout the night, or you stop at a certain point and say, we'll be back in the morning and continue counting?
Yeah, so Wisconsin state law, and every state is different, but Wisconsin state law does look at that tallying as one continual process because, again, it's a publicly noticed meeting where anybody can come observe that tally as it continues. So our local jurisdictions have been planning for this day. They've been planning for that additional surge of absentee ballots, and they've recruited additional poll workers and absentee ballot talliers so that they can deal with that higher volume. And many of them expect that it's going to be certainly a late night into potentially the following morning, but they're resourced appropriately to get that count done as efficiently and, of course, as accurately as possible.
And lastly, I've asked several state officials if anything at all is keeping them up at night. Is there anything that concerns you most right now as we head into Election Day?
The thing that worries me the most is mis and disinformation about our election process. There are people trying to confuse voters. There's misleading information either from people with good intentions or people without good intentions, as we heard from our intelligence community recently. And so I think voters really have a responsibility to find the facts about elections. So seek out the facts from your local election official, your state election official, about how elections actually work. Because we find the more that people know about the mechanics of our election process, they can see all the incredible safeguards that go into making sure that your vote is safe and secure and that our tally is accurate.
Every single state official that we have talked to, and I've asked them that question, answers the same way. The concern is about mis and disinformation. Meagan, Wolfe, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.